Hey, coaches, welcome back to our AMA series here at CoachNow. This is episode 2, where we're going to be answering the most common questions from our members and coaches all around the globe. I'm Spencer, the founder of CoachNow, and this is Jerem, our academy manager. So let's dive into those questions and we'll see what happens.
Great. Out the gate here, I think this is a great question. What's the biggest mistake that coaches make? If you could answer the question, what are coaches doing wrong? What would you say?
Oh my gosh, there's a long list here, Jerem. I want to try to be kind here because I mean, I've been doing this for so long that a lot of things get me very frustrated around the coaching industry. So let's maybe pick two. The first one is that most coaches are using way too many tools to communicate. So they end up being the victim of how their athlete is choosing to communicate with them. So to be clear, you might be using email, text, Facebook, WhatsApp, and a whole other slew of channels to just send basic messages back and forth. Is if it's a piece of coaching content, something that is important, it must live in one unified space. Now, you could argue, hey, I want to do a quick scheduling change, maybe a text message is appropriate. And I could buy into that. But if it's something that you want to track, collaborate on, it's important enough to capture and practice it, it needs to live in one spot. So, of course, I would love if you use Coach Now because you can not only capture things in Coach Now, but you can pull in other media and data from all sorts of other sources and put it into one unified spot. So, obviously, I'm advocating for that. But if you don't choose Coach Now, please don't use Coach Now as one of many channels. I just had a conversation with a coach the other day that was looking at Trainer Eyes versus Coach Now. You could argue that Trainer Eyes might have been better. She's a newer coach. She doesn't have any assets. If you guys know Trainer Eyes, it's kind of like a templated platform. Say, hey, if you're going to even think about using that, just use that. Don't use Coach Now and that.
Mhm.
She landed on using Coach Now because we talked about more of her wanting to create, or me advocating that she creates assets that are unique to her so she can brand herself instead of using templated stuff from somebody else. That's a whole separate thing. The other side, I say this a million times. I'm probably going to say it in every dang video that we do until all of you stop doing it. Stop selling time for money. Please sell results. Stop selling units of time. If you want to know more about that, we have endless pieces of content. I probably talk about this every day, so we'll just leave it at that.
Sounds good. Um, what does remote coaching actually mean to you? I think internally we see this as kind of like a buzzword that
Right.
people are throwing around. Like, what do you take remote coaching as actually meaning, like substance wise?
Well, I don't know if we came up with it,
Hmm.
but I think we did because we've been doing this for 10 plus years now. I think we came up with the phrase remote coaching. The reason being is that so many people were looking to do online training, but more specifically, online lessons. We've always had a problem with the concept of lessons, going back to literally what I just said a minute ago. So, what I'm advocating for is that you move into a coaching relationship and it's remote. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's explicitly always online. We would actually kind of take this a little bit of a step further and call it connected coaching. So, if you have the opportunity to meet with someone in person, you're going to maybe do that once a month, once a week, probably at best. So, what about all that other time? You need to stay connected to them so that you can keep coaching them. But you could also use the phrasing of remote coaching as well, where you're only working with them in a distance fashion, but it's coaching. It's not just these quick one off lessons where you draw a bunch of lines on somebody's swing or movement and tell them how bad they are. You need to actually create a plan to help them move forward. And you can do that remotely.
Great. Uh, how do you come up with the right price for your services? Especially if you plan to do remote coaching, some people see that as potentially less valuable than meeting in person. What response do you have to that?
Right. Well, I think there's a lot of good examples of coaches that have 50, 60, 70%, and in some cases, 100% of their business purely remote. I know there's a great coach. I actually interviewed him a little while ago, Andrew Banner, in the world of golf, where I think 99% and soon is going to be 100% remote coaching. He gets people into 3-month programs, and I believe, and he said this, so I don't think I'm talking out of school here, it's somewhere around $1,000 or $1,500 a month, or sorry, $1,500 total for that 3-month commitment.
Mhm.
So $500 a month. The reason why he prices it that way, and I would encourage all of you to think about the same thing, is that there's a minimum 3-month commitment. Great, that's what you want. People aren't going to make changes in any probably less time than that. And the other, it's a high ticket enough. It's not the highest ticket I've heard of, but it's pretty expensive for a lot of people, but they'll pay attention. They will take accountability for their actions, because the only way you're going to make this remote coaching relationship work is if it's two-sided. The athlete needs to be capturing their practice, asking questions, because that's where the real value lies. So when you look at pricing things, if you're doing purely remote, you can have kind of an intro, a medium, and then a professional tier. The professional tier being the most interaction, practice plans, maybe a fitness plan, whatever it might be. And the beginning plan likely being some assessments of your technique, and then maybe offering a practice plan that they're just doing mainly self-guided.
Mhm.
But they do have access to CoachNow to effectively journal it. So when you come up to pricing, you want to look at what your minimum interactions are going to be. What other value are you going to offer to that particular athlete? And then at minimum, pricing wise, don't do anything, at least in my opinion, if you're in the US, for less than 175 a month, something like that.
Great.
Yeah.
Within the remote coaching topic, how do you recommend coaches create accountability for their athletes?
Yeah. So I kind of touched on it just now. As you're signing somebody up for any program that you offer, you need to make sure that everyone's on the same page for the minimal level of accountability, to just be very direct. So it's not a surprise that you want them to participate or take ownership. You're going to say, hey, I expect you to make, in the simplest terms, 3 posts a week, one of your thoughts for the week, one of a swing video, and one of maybe some fitness exercise, whatever it is. You have to establish that content mechanism, let's say. But the main thing is, whenever you sell an offer, it's just baked in that you're going to do some stuff and they're going to do some stuff. If that's not included, then your offer isn't complete.
Got it. What was your main motivation for creating CoachNow?
Well, that's a big pivot. Okay. These are questions from everybody else. So that's why they're here. It's not Jeremy asking these questions in this order. All right. So it's a big story. I cover it a lot, but I think the main thing is that I was just burning out. And I think a lot of you guys watching this are probably on that same path. You're either burning out or you're on your way there, and maybe you don't even realize it just yet. But I was coaching 40 or 50 hours a week, like a lot of you are, in person. And then I was trying to communicate to my athletes during the time we weren't together. And that ended up being another 40 or 50 hours a week. When I looked at it from a business sense, I was charging hundreds of dollars an hour, but my effective hourly rate was actually $10 an hour. During that same period of time, I had some opportunities to meet with some people that were in the insurance business. These were people that were making millions of dollars a month and probably working 15 hours a week. So I knew that there was some leverage that I was missing. And there was also some goals that I had for athlete development that I just couldn't do without the right kind of technology. I tried email, text. I tried even like doctor collaboration platforms that were invented way up like 10 years ago. And it was just terrible. So I had all this media and data and communications just all everywhere and nowhere all at once. And I was completely burnt out. My business was not working. If you're working and you only make $10 an hour, that doesn't make any sense. So luckily I knew some guys, some good friends of mine that were in the world of technology. We came together and here we are many years later. Lots of scars and other stuff along the way that made it very difficult. But the main thing is, maybe the last thing I want to share with you about this story is that when we launched what was used to be called Edufy, and I was going out talking to these different coaches in the early days, like, oh man, I was thinking about doing something just like that. And I just didn't do it. And these are people that had way more money, were way more famous than me, because I wasn't famous in any capacity. I'm still not. And just didn't take the action. So I think if you're watching this and you have any ideas, just maybe take this last piece I'm about to share with you. If you are the most pissed off, and this might sound weird, but if you've got an idea and you happen to be the most pissed off person in your industry, run with that, because you'll probably create something magical. If you're someone that's kind of apathetic and like, yeah, it would be nice if it was different, you're not going to make any waves. But I woke up every day pissed about my own business and pissed about everybody else's business. And even today, 10 years later, I'm generally still upset about how the coaching industry is going. And we've helped change it, but it's still not there yet.
Spencer Dennis, the most pissed off coach.
I am fully convinced that was the only difference, because I was willing to go through all the difficult times to launch a software company, not knowing anything about it, because I was so pissed off. My why was very strong.
Nice. Right. All right, switching gears a little bit into more product stuff.
Sure.
This person's wondering what our roadmap is for CoachNow Pro. Do we have any updates on that? We've been kind of cranking away in the background, getting stuff out for everybody.
Yeah. So where are we now? We're in March.
Mhm.
So one of the things that just got released is view data or post data. So now you're going to be able to see who's seen it, how many have seen it, and we're going to keep exposing more and more information about specific posts. I think that's really important, not only for you coaches just to understand, hey, is anybody even looking at this? That's one level. But then as you're coaching larger groups of people, or you have coaches that work underneath you, you can start to see who's interacting with what. There's some more accountability tossed in.
Mhm.
This is only for pro members. That's one of the things. As we move forward with the pro membership, we're going to be adding more data. We're going to be adding more automation. We're going to be throwing in some AI related things. Now, that won't necessarily be perfectly baked in. We'll talk about that more later. But generally, in the pro membership, everything we're trying to do in a nutshell is to save you even more time and help you create even more revenue streams. So I'll kind of leave it at that for now.
Great. What do you see as the most underutilized piece of Coach Now?
That's a great question. Uh, well, I'll say it this way. I think Coach Now is probably the most underutilized part of Coach Now.
You got to use it if it's going to work.
Yeah, and I can't recall. No, I did an interview with a great coach by the name of Riley Dudar. He's a hockey coach, and you were on that call, so you know. And I was like, hey man, what's your best advice for Coach Now? And he just flatly said, he's like, just use it, right? So it only works if you work it. And there's a myriad of features that you obviously could use, but if you're not doing the bare minimum of capturing a recap of a session that you're in with somebody and posting it into their space, you're basically not even using it. So make sure that you're at least posting something from each coaching session, that you're at least checking in once a week with your athletes. You can again do that individually, just kind of one by one, or you can even do it in a list. Say, hey, how's practice going? How are you feeling? But again, there's a lot of stuff that we do in Coach Now. The power users are full aware of that. But if you're watching this and you're kind of on the fence or you're new, just use it and then you'll figure out all the rest of the stuff along the way.
Great. I think that's a good spot to end it for today. We got more questions here, obviously, but we'll get to that next week.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for watching our AMA here, where we talked about all the different features of Coach Now, as well as some of the business questions that you might have. If you're new to Coach Now or you're just checking it out, please kick off your free trial. There's no credit card needed. You have 7 days to check out Coach Now Pro. You can do that over at coachnow.io. And as always, if you need any help, just reach out to us. We are here for you. All right. See you next time.